Welcome to Steve Means Business, the podcast dedicated to promoting and highlighting small business all across America. As an entrepreneur who has launched many small businesses in various industries over the years and blessed with the gift of gab, Steve was made for this podcast. Let's do this.
Welcome to another episode of Steve Means Business, the podcast dedicated to promoting small businesses all across America. My name is Steve Weinberg. This is Archie, my partner in crime. And today's episode, guys, is going to be F-U-N-N fun. You know why? Because we're talking pickleball. That's right. The hottest game in the country. I play 6-7 days a week, 4 or 5 hours a day. We're going to play here. Me and Archie are going to go right after this. We're going to the courts. It's just out of sight. It's such a cool game. And like I said, it's taking the country by storm. I'll put Archie down for a little bit here. And don't eat the ball, Archie. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Today, we're talking with Adam Clay, the founder of Pickleball Pop Ups, an incredible concept in the game of pickleball. It's just they bring pickleball, the experience, and the event right to your doorstep. That's right, guys. Adam, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
You bet. You know, when I saw an article about this on LinkedIn a couple weeks back, and I saw what you did, I was blown away. I could not believe the scope of what you do with the game, and you bring it right to the door of organizations and parties. And tell us all about Pickleball Pop-Ups.
Sure. Yeah. And it wasn't something we just came up with overnight. It was kind of a wild idea we had in the effort to promote our first business idea, which was to open our own pickleball club. And so we had this idea of, while we're in the development of that, why don't we go around town and throw pickleball parties, really as a marketing exercise. So we're going to bring a pickleball court. Maybe it's going to be tape or a cheap net, and we'll try to get some people to come, maybe bring out the boom box, turn on the headlights, like we used to do growing up. And that evolved into really maxing it out. And maybe that's just a commentary on our personality and our habits, is rather than do it the cheap way, we invested like $50,000 and bought premium courts, premium nets, invested in a photographer, videographer, and really went big with these parties. And so starting in the summer last year, we started doing pickleball pop-up series around my hometown, which is Memphis, Tennessee. And again, it was going to be to promote an eventual club that we were going to open. Well, we kept doing them. We kept taking killer videos, which maybe you'll show, as part of this. And by the time we'd done our fifth one, which is on world famous Beale Street, where Elvis and BB King grew up, by the time we did that, all of a sudden we kind of went pickleball viral, is what I've said before, which is in the pickleball community. All of a sudden we were getting asked all over the country, can you do that here? And it started, the idea was maybe we could do this at bar mitzvahs and backyards, like a bouncy house kind of thing. But really where the opportunity presented itself was for businesses, for either corporate events or for marketing events. So a corporate event would be bring a pickleball party to my parking lot, and I want all my employees to have a great time. Some of them will learn how to play. Some of them already know. They'll play. We'll have a party, music, food, beer, whatever. And that's really for the company's benefit. And then really where it really exploded was with marketing events. So bring pickleball to a trade show. Bring it, the iconic pickleball tour in Nashville, brought to you by XYZ sponsor, and do it for marketing reasons. We've got 1,800 square foot billboards that we can do a lot with. Pickleball is the hottest thing right now. And so turning this into marketing vehicles was really, really amazing opportunity. For background, I come from corporate sales. My business partner comes from corporate marketing. So moving from like marketing pickleball to players who will pay to play pickleball, instead of using pickleball as advertising, as team building, that became its own business. And so we actually turned our back on the permanent pickleball club and went all in on the businesses. And so we've been doing events all around the country. As we speak, my crew is in Bristol, Connecticut, doing an event for ESPN. I think Hannah Storm is there. Stephen A is there. That's what they do. And these are things that we can bring anywhere, whether it's a parking lot, it's a trade show floor, it's a rooftop. We can bring them to the beach, on grass, whatever. We get in, throw the party, get out the same day. And it's really unique. There's a few people doing some stuff like it, but we're the only ones that I know of that are doing it at this level.
Okay. There's two things that caught my eye, and this is the beauty of podcasting. You know, I have some questions I'm going to ask you and things will bring up, but you mentioned two things that I got to jump in on. First off, if they had this at my bar mitzvah, I would have been a lot more of a compliant kid versus like just reading the Haftorah and saying, get me the hell out of here. You know, my parents would have been happier and all the kids would have had a great time. You know, and second thing, you know, you mentioned the bouncy house. I was going to say and let me back up for context. I've been an executive recruiter in the technology industry for 25 years. Adam came from the SaaS world as well. So for all you people from the technology and software world that love acronyms as if there are not enough of them, how about PAAS, Pickleball as a Service? You can think of it that way, and we're laughing, but it's true. It's something that you bring right to their door, and the model is so efficient, Adam. That's what caught my eye about you bring the courts, the nets, the paddles, the balls, the equipment, the DJ, the videographer, the Gatorade, the drinks, the cater it, you know, boom, boom, boom. It's like when you get a bouncy house for your kid's birthday party, you make the call, they show up with the box truck and they just put it together like a kit. And you have one, and as the customer, you have one job, if I understand it correctly, or two, show up and have fun. And that's is it.
That's right. Completely right. Yeah. And we've really systematized the whole thing, operationalized, whatever word you want to use. Something that's repeatable. We've got great relationships with different manufacturers on the court side, manufacturers on the net and ball and paddle side, so that we can actually have warehouses or pods, as we call them, around the country. So we have inventory on the West Coast, in the Midwest, on the East Coast. We're building this out so that to get our costs down. So if you want this at, you know, in Las Vegas at a trade show, as opposed to us shipping everything from Memphis and back, you know, it's already right there. Same for Southern California. And so that's our business plan, is to make this more and more efficient and more quick and fast, so that we can do this way more often. Right now we're doing basically one of these a week, which is great. 52 events a year. That's a great business. Right. Being able to do multiple at the same time and you know, all over the country is how we're going to scale, and that requires a lot of organization. But right now, it's interesting because why not do this with tennis, or why not do this with baseball? Like there's something about pickleball, and Steve, I think you'll attest to this, about the welcoming, fun nature of it that's so unique. And I've heard a lot of theories. I've got my own theories, but it is really a vehicle for fun. We always say we don't sell pickleball. You know, we sell the result is either people having a great time or the intense interest people give to it. Pickleball is just a vehicle, and it is a very, very hot and exciting vehicle. And so we just kind of hit the right thing at the right time.
It is. And if I could speak to that, I'm playing about 15, 16 months now. And I thought, I played every sport there is growing up. I just did. But I played tennis a lot. And some of my buddies would tell me, hey, you got to check it out. You got to check it out. And bicycle distance from my house, we have the premier park in all of Scottsdale, 10 courts. They're mobbed every single day, even in 115-degree heat. No joke. It's Horizon Park. And I said, all right, Sean, I'll go down there. I'll check it out. And I didn't think much of it because the ball doesn't bounce real fast. It's not as lively as tennis. And I love playing aggressive, and I love the speed and the power of tennis and what have you. And I said, I'll give it a try. Adam, in 2 minutes, I was hooked. I went out there and I'm kind of raw and I'm mashing and banging, which is kind of like the typical progression when a tennis player goes out there and tries it. And I want to run around, be athletic, and just use my athleticism and mash and bang and this and that. And I made some enemies right away. But then I saw the genius of it. I did, where you need the touch and the dink and the strategery, as George Bush would say. And it clicked with me. In 2 minutes, I was hooked. I played 8 days a week for the first 6 months. You couldn't get me off the court. I go from tennis lessons. I teach tennis at night. I teach for 2-3 hours of tennis. Then I go to the pickleball court, play 3 hours of pickleball. That's how the needle was in the arm. I'm addicted. That's right. It's just, and two other things that caught my attention you mentioned. The socialization factor. As competitive as I want to be, we had so much fun. I mean, people are, at the right places to bring some beers, and afterward you're having cocktails and having a little party. It's like a happy hour. Yeah. And also, you can make it as competitive or social as you like, but the learning curve, Adam, to me, the learning curve was 1/5 the amount of time of, say, tennis. And you could have somebody in tennis, if somebody hits it real hard, a lot of spin, it could be not a very pleasant experience for a new player. And tennis can be really frustrating. And there's a ton of court to cover. The court is smaller, I think 44 by 20 or 22 by 44. I think it's 44 by 20. Smaller court to cover, but the learning curve to have fun and success, it's like that. And so you see all of that's what caught my attention about why this is so popular.
Yeah, and I would say as evidence of that, I used to play a lot of golf, and as with this sport and every sport I started playing, I was terrible. I got a little bit better. But then what I noticed is after a little while, I never really got much better. And I was just mad all the time playing golf. You have one or two great shots, which brings you out again. I mean, you think you're going to get 3 or 4 next time. But I just noticed that everyone was always mad. Like, we're having an okay time, but then you're getting with pickleball. 2 things have remained true. You mentioned 15. I've been playing about the same amount of time, about a year and a half. Is I'm always getting better. Like, to this day, I'm continually getting better. And I'm always happy. Like, I'm never mad. Like, every now and then you get a little frustrated, just like with any competitive thing, but generally speaking, always happy. And so I haven't played golf in a year and a half. Like, I just gave it up. I sold everything. I still have my fitted clubs just in case, but like all the nets and the practice stuff, and I quit my private club, and because I just found so much improvement, but more importantly, so much joy playing pickleball. That I went all in with it, and I'm not looking back.
I agree. And the beauty of it is, like I said, we're blessed here in Scottsdale. Within a 10-minute drive, I have 4 public courts that are free. Our public parks in Scottsdale, we are great. We're blessed. They're incredible. I mean, it's unbelievable what we have. And coming from Brooklyn, New York, where half the parks were just run down and beaten down, and they don't have, I mean, this is like, it's unbelievable. I mean, the baseball fields here that the kids play their Little League games, it's like Yankee Stadium, and they're so spoiled. But our public parks, we have 4 parks within 10 minutes of where I live right here. You can go down there, and it's like when you're a kid, you're playing pickup basketball. You don't have to know anybody. You can just show up, put your paddle in the rack, and everybody is super cool. I think I've met one person that I would say, he's kind of a knucklehead in 15, 16 months. Everybody's very welcoming. The better players are willing to show the new players how to show the ropes. It's super friendly. Everyone's, we are competitive, but we have fun with it, right?
Come with it.
It is. And the learning curve. So like you say, you don't get discouraged. I play golf since I'm, late teens or, early 20s. And I was even in the business for a little bit of time and taught some golf. And was a decent player, one time, pretty good. But it is frustrating. It really is. And this game, even on days where I had some shots that are suspect or I lost some games, I learned, and I play with better players. We're lucky that we play with some tour players here that I play with all the time, or some of the time, I should say. And so you get better. But we also have some social friends, and I see people sneaking onto tennis courts to go play pickleball because they're so addicted to the game. I just think it's fantastic. But enough of me. A couple of things that came to mind when I saw your concept. Tell the folks a little bit about, as far as going to a company or organization or corporation, how big do you have to be? Do you have to have a huge parking lot to put to set up the courts? If you don't have the space, how do you accommodate these companies? Tell us a little bit about some of the logistic nuts and bolts about a day in the life of an event at a company.
Yeah, contrary to what you might think, we usually don't start with that. We think about first, what is this company trying to achieve? So if you're trying to achieve a corporate event where you're doing team building, okay, what do you want to get out of it? We want everyone to have a great time. We want people to not quit their job. We want everyone to recruit for us. Like, whatever it is, we want to get great content for our public image. Whatever that is, we start with that. Okay, great. Now what's available? What's available on your premises, your parking lot, indoors, outdoors? Do you have a huge cafeteria? Do you have a gymnasium? Do you have a rooftop? If not your premises, what's nearby? Is there, and we just really think about first, what is it you're trying to accomplish? How many pickleball courts will that take? Because when we say, oh, well, it's a trade show and we want to do a marketing thing, we just need one court. We want it to be tricked out with our logos, and we want to have a clown and a DJ and whatever, whatever you want it to be. That's a different consideration. So, like you said earlier, the inbound area of a court is 20 by 44. a full size court with a
Out of bounds stuff.
It's 30 by 60, so it's 1,800 square feet, which is not that big, really. You can fit 4 of these things in one tennis court, for reference, 3 on basketball. You really can do a lot. Now, we have modular courts that can be trimmed down. We can trim the out of bounds down, and we can make it small. We've even got some really specific type of courts that we can truncate the actual size of the courts where it's not even regulation size. And we did that in Chicago recently, where they didn't really care about it being competitive. They had, wine and beer and music, and people were in their khakis playing on a half-size pickleball court, and it didn't even matter, because they weren't buying pickleball from us. They were buying this experience, this event, this team building. So, a long way to say, yes, parking lots are great, but really any space that's open, indoor or outdoors, hard or soft surface, we have solutions for it, and it all starts with what our customers are trying to get out of the experience.
Right. I didn't mean to interrupt, but when you said it doesn't have to be full size, when we drill and practice, we play skinny singles sometimes because it especially in 115-degree heat, playing singles is tough. And so I don't feel like getting scraped off the court, having a heart attack. We'll play one half of the court, and people that know in the game, skinny singles, you're basically just playing one side of the, it's half as wide. Basically, the length is the same, but the width is only half. So it saves you from a cardio perspective, and you could accommodate a smaller space.
Yep. So we don't try to do that, but sometimes someone says, this is the space we have. Like we just did one the other day we had enough width, about 35 feet. We had a 40 by 35 square room. And there was just no way to get 44 feet, just the baseline to the baseline without any out of bounds. And so what we did is we took a court that's a different surface that has pieces we can take on and off, and we removed 4 feet. So not to get too techie with people who don't know what the court looks like, but the area past the kitchen, so call it the transition zone, we removed 4 feet on each side. So we had a pickleball court that was basically 30 feet, so it was not regulation, but that's what they wanted. And so, and again, if we were selling pickleball as pickleball truists and an originalist, then that would be heresy. But we're not. We're using pickleball as a means to deliver happiness and outcomes for companies. And then
how is it? And I have watched some of your videos where I've seen people they've got that, pardon my French, shit-eating grin on their face. Yeah. Everyone's smiling, having a good time. We'll keep it PG as best I could. But I saw it at trade shows. I saw it, like you said on Beale Street, right there by where the Grizzlies play. Memphis. It's the Mecca, and so it can be big or small. How has corporate America received this? And what has become like the biggest, most popular venue for you within corporate America? Talk about that a little bit.
Great question. So we put inventory in Las Vegas for a reason. Las Vegas is the trade show capital of the universe, not just the Las Vegas Convention Center, but all of the hotels on the Strip have their own convention centers. So just to answer your question, where we're doing the most work is at trade shows. Will that last forever? I don't know. Where we're getting the most repeat business, though, is with companies who are using this for team building. Now, team building is not just for their own employees. A lot of companies will bring in their customers or bring in their prospects or their partners, and they'll have events to build those relationships. It's still a corporate event. That's not, the ROI is not how many people came and played pickleball. It's what relationships did this build that led to business afterwards. And that is where we're getting companies wanting us to do this on multiple campuses. And I won't name their names, but there's one that signed us up for 4 events. There's one that signed us up for 11. Some of them are in the same place. Some of them are in just one huge Fortune 100 company that has this. They have multiple campuses around the country. And so we're their Pickleball Pop Up experience partner. And we really let them shape the programming, as we call it. Yes, we're going to roll pickleball courts out. We're going to have music. We're going to have food and beer and drinks and stuff. We're going to have that. We're going to have court monitors. But what else? And that's really, our clients come up with all these amazing ideas. They have one game where it was we had a professional out there, and it was score a point against a professional and you get a free T-shirt. Score 2 points, you get a paddle. If you beat the professional, you get a Cadillac. Of course, no one's going to get the Cadillac, but just stuff like that. And it's really just like, have the CEO and the CMO play against each other and let everyone laugh at them. And there's just is those guys, the corporate talent, HR, marketing, communications people. They have taken this like palette, this easel, this half painting of pickleball and added so much color and vibrancy to it. And so it surprises us all the time. Long answer to say, most repeat business is in as far as geography is Las Vegas, but as far as, and that's marketing events, but the repeat business per company is on the corporate event side.
And just so everybody, I'm trying to get as much info about you guys out there as possible. And like I do with all my podcasts, I leave links to all your information about the URL of the website, everything like that. But you'll go anywhere, all over the country, north, south, east, or west.
Yes.
You dispatch your team with, like I said, we'll call it a box truck or whatever. And they come out there, they open up that tailgate.
Like Broadway.
And it's right. And it's like go time.
Whole logistics department. Their whole job is getting things from one place to another, having the crew there to set it up, take it down. And then so we separate between crew and staff. Crew is like the work of setting up and tearing down. The staff is the people running the event. That's
playing pickleball, right.
The planning exercises that we have heading up to it. That might be running the event. It might be the branding and all the stuff and just or the games or just whatever. And the staff does that. So yes, so anywhere in the country, kind of like Broadway, we have our own logistics and our freight partners. And we haven't had a place yet we've had to say no to because of difficulty getting there.
Well, being based in Memphis, I could think of there's probably a pretty good logistics and freight company in your backyard. This little
one of our clients.
This little podunk thing called FedEx. Yeah, exactly right. They probably could. So whether that was intentional or not, it was a great joining of the force.
The people behind me work at FedEx. Like it's obviously a huge company here.
Well, yeah. I mean, FedEx is FedEx and Elvis is two things you think about when you think of Memphis. But one thing that I think it's the scalability, the ease. Like I said, all kidding aside, you just show up and have fun as a customer. That's your job. That's it. I mean, and I think this is so much different than like say if you're going to have an employee or partner like say systems integrators, to take a Silicon Valley software term, whatever. Your partners, your systems integrators, your strategic executives, whatever you want to call it. Yep. If you threw them on the basketball court or tennis court, there's going to be a big disparity in skills, and it wouldn't be as much fun, I don't think, as this game would be. And if you have your guys that we play in tournaments and we're competitive, maybe you're 4-5 or higher level, they'll find their way to play with the 4-5s and 5-0s may play with each other, and maybe lesser players will play with each other, but it becomes social, and it's just it's such a fun time. That's what I took away from this, or take away from this, when I see new players at the court. Everyone just has a blast, and it's such a great way, I think, to build culture and good karma within the company and their partners. And you can make it as little as 5-6 hours one day, or it could be a 2 or 3 day event. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. And I did want to mention, you talked about different players and abilities and how they would fare on basketball. So there's a lot of cool things you can do to make sure this is fun for everyone. So yes, if we just showed up with pickleball and we had a tournament, like a lot of companies call and say, we want to have a pickleball tournament. And we talk them out of that immediately, because what you're going to try to do then is get the people who play pickleball already, which is a subset of the population. Now everyone's hearing about it and curious about it, but there's people who play and there's people who don't. So rather than going on a tournament, what we recommend is always, always, always have beginner instruction. So anyone can come and learn to play. You've been hearing about it. And then after that, we have open play where people can play beginner or experienced and less experienced. But then you can also neutralize those better players if you want to have some fun. Yes, let the better players have a great time and play a real game against each other. Encourage that. But if you really want to get creative with mingling people, have games offhand only. So if you have ever played pickleball before, you can only play this game with your left hand if you're right-handed. Or a game we call can in hand, which is you have to play with a drink of your choice, alcoholic or not, usually alcoholic, but not always, in your hand while you play. and that makes serving weird. And it's just like, it just changes the game. And so there's just a lot you can do. And again, it all goes back to what are the goals of the event. If we're trying to, one thing we don't do, and I say this is very intentionally, is we just don't do proper tournaments. Like if there are companies like the APP, the PPA, everybody go and do tournaments that have a high standard of excellence when it comes to how perfect the court is on the ground. And also people pay to play and there's 80 courts. Like that's just not our lane. Our lane is the pickleball pop-up party. And that's what we do best.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's great. And I think it absolutely, it's such a enjoyable day for everybody. It won't get uber competitive to where you'll have employee, managers and directors, with their, I don't want to say subordinates, but they're, people reporting into them. That could always get, wacky and this and that, but make it fun. You've got the games. And I saw where people change it up. I've even seen where people say, because in pickleball, you have to serve from underneath your belly button. And there's a new little trend out there where you could serve like you're in tennis, like an overhead serve. And it's just you're merging the games. But it's just all everyone having fun.
It's fun. Yeah.
Oh, I love it because I got a vicious serve in tennis. And I would love to be able to do that. But it's just it's another variation or another flavor of the game. And like you said, you're catering to the needs of your client and what have you.
Always.
And before we kind of bring this to a close in a little bit here, you made some really big news with what you did in the 14-day transformation.
Yeah.
Where we talk about that a little bit, because I saw that story on LinkedIn, and that's what led me to Pickleball Pop-Ups and you and your story.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about that aspect as well.
Well, I mentioned in the beginning that our origin story was that we wanted to build a full-on, full-service pickleball club. And in that process, we started marketing with events, and the events took off, and we abandoned the club. As we did more and more events, the capability of what we call temporary pickleball experiences, being able to build pickleball from the ground up in a matter of hours, have an event, tear it down. It got better and better and better with better courts, better nets, just better processes in general, that the difference between what we could do in a day versus what we were going to build was the gap was shrinking all the time. And so we finally had this idea. And I think other people have had this idea, but I think we're the only ones who've really executed it this way, which is why don't we just do this in empty retail space? Why don't we bring a pickleball pop-up almost exactly like we would at a corporate event, almost no different, build it and then leave it at a low cost so that people can have pickleball options in a very high demand, low supply environment, and don't build the place. Don't, invest a lot of tenant improvement budget, really use the same courts, and because everything we have is great. And so now add a few things, like you might see behind me, add some furniture, add some TVs, add some merchandise, add a few things, but really nothing we brought into the place would be permanent. And so we did that. We got the keys to an old Bed Bath & Beyond. I'm sitting in it right now. On July 1st, we took our capability of building temporary pickleball experiences, built this place in 14 days at about 1/10 the price of what it would have taken to do it the old-fashioned way. And we call this concept the pop-up club. So we have pickleball pop-up events, pickleball pop-up clubs. We have a business plan with how this is going to scale and then turn into other things, which we're not being super public about because we want to stay out in front as long as we can. But just kind of phase 1 of a phase 3 plan, do the temporary piece, eventually get into more permanent. But the difference between this and permanent is very little. But yeah, so this is our very first one. It's our proof of concept. We've been open in 3 days. It'll be 1 month. So
that's great. Congratulations. I mean, that's a fantastic achievement. And you kept the cost, tame for people. You didn't make it into this, super whiz bang, high-end club that would eliminate a lot of people and turn off a lot of people. You kept it for the average, John or Jane Doe. It's affordable.
Yeah, we have a low day pass and we have a monthly unlimited pass. We don't call people members or non-members. It's really, you want to come in here every now and then or all the time. And then
how cool is that? I mean, that's what, and it should be. It shouldn't have to be this, crazy commitment that's you're going to eliminate some people because of that commitment and what have you.
Right.
Keep it casual, keep it fun. No, that's great. Listen,
and our
I mean,
events
this
business is what carries our company. So we're not out here. We're not living and dying by the profitability of this place. Yes, we're not a charity and we're not giving things away, but we are not. We are trying to. This is a topic for another show. Is how we're thinking of this as a test kitchen, as a experiment to learn what does the market want when it comes to a pickleball club. What are they willing to pay for? What are things people are wasting money on? Are other clubs doing things that are unnecessary? Because it's the way it's always been with tennis clubs and racquetball clubs. And so what we are doing, and this will be the last I'll say about it, because I think we can talk about this again, is we are introducing things one at a time, learning what people like, rejecting the things that they don't, investing in the things they do, and building an operations plan that no one else has done. No one else has done this analysis, hands-on analysis. And we're hoping that this informs the entire industry, and we don't plan to keep it to ourselves.
I think that's great. And, you know, of course, the pickleball subject caught my attention. But when I watched your video and I read the story and I got into the weeds and saw the nuts and bolts of what you're doing, I mean, the bells went off in my head like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. It's scalable. It's flexible, you know, boom, boom, boom. I said, I did not know Adam prior to 10 days ago, guys. And people that know me, I'm a bulldog. And I said, I'm going to get this guy on the podcast. I'm going to have him tell the story because you can run, but you can't hide from me. That's how I am. And when I latch on, I'm like Archie, like, you know, that Labrador retriever with a bone. I just don't let it go. I said, we got to publicize this. My way, when I see something I love in this part of the podcast and my whole nature, I shout it from the rooftops. I had to get this guy on so he could tell his story. It's going to inspire so many more players, especially in the Memphis area, you know, where that's the mothership where Adam is. And I'm going to list all that. I just, you know, my hat's off to you. I take my hat off, but, you know, it's getting MIA up here, almost like Costanza. I don't, you know, we don't want that, you know, but basically, great job on this. I think this is fantastic. And this could be the format and the model to come. So you include so many more people. There's nobody excluded with that. That's what caught my attention, Adam. There's everybody. This could work for anybody.
Yes, it could. Yep.
Okay. We're going to know this is great. And we are going to have you on future episodes. As this evolves, I would like for you to come back and give us some updates on how it's worked from the corporate standpoint, from the local standpoint in Memphis. And I would love nothing more for you to come back and say, Steve, here's the latest, what's going on as we get later in the year. And, you know, we'd love to have you back.
I'd love to be back. I appreciate you guys having me.
All right. Go out there and play. We're going to play tonight. All my buddies out there, we're going to play about 3-4 hours on the court because it went down we actually got a break. It's only like 105 out here in Phoenix these days. So, right, exactly right. We get a break. But listen, great stuff. Take care, and we'll see you soon. You bet. Take care. All right.
That's going to do it for today's episode of Steve Means Business. Be sure to subscribe and share this podcast with all your friends. Keep a heads up for episodes every week.